Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Legal and General Just Covered podcast, when we speak to intermediaries, advisors and key people in our industry about their views and opinions on protection. My name's Wayne.
And I'm Hazel, and today we are joined by Gemma who's the owner of Gemstone Mortgages. So thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been great. And very hot day in London today, isn't it?
Yes, very hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
I saw you had your fan, though.
I did, yeah. I have bought one for you as well, so I've got one in my bag for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, but it'll be great to hear, Gemma, about your journey, how business has gone. Obviously, you've been brilliant on social media, so we'd love to touch upon that at some point. But tell us about your journey into the sector and how you've grown your business.
I started as a mortgage advisor, working for a corporate estate agent back in 2011, and then in 2016 decided to go at it alone and set up Gemstone. And it was just me initially, just working in a small office above an estate agent's, and we just got really busy. So I recruited an admin and then advisors from there. We got our office in 2020. Got the keys literally a week before lockdown. So once we were able to work from there, we've managed to build quite a good local brand, I feel. So my advisors do all the mortgages and the protection. So they see the client through for that whole journey. So yeah, it's been quite a whirlwind over the past few years, definitely.
And to get the keys just for lockdown, how did you navigate that?
We were able to go into the office to do the work for it. We just got it ready for when we were able to relaunch it and allow people back in. So,
yeah, we spoke to others before that when you get to such a key time in a business expansion like that, and then lockdown happens. Was there any sort of knee-jerk reaction from yourself? How were you feeling at the time, for example?
Yeah, it was really stressful. That same time as well, my partner got a diagnosis of cancer. I don't know if we've ever spoken about that before. So literally we got lockdown cancer and then our lockdown was a hell of a lot longer than what everyone else's was because he was going through his treatment as well. So I actually had the team in the office and I was working from home, Zooming them. And that went on for nearly 10 months, before I was able to even go in at the same time as them as well. I even recruited 2 members of staff over Zoom just because I wasn't able to go out and meet them. So yeah, it was a weird time, but it feels so long ago now.
Yeah, gosh, what an amount of things you must have been having to juggle and deal with.
But it did, I couldn't do anything else. So it enabled me literally just to focus on work. And that's where our social media kind of really started and grew from, to be honest with you, because we were doing all the rate announcements for the mortgage side of things. That's when they pulled all the 95% mortgages. So we were doing announcements as lenders were coming back to the market, and we were just getting people starting to follow us for those announcements. That's how we grew, really. That's where the whole social media side started.
And where does the majority of the social media presence for you? Where does it sit? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? I know it's LinkedIn as well.
It's mainly Facebook, to be honest with you. So, Instagram's really good for us just to get brand awareness. We get engagement, people liking things, obviously, but actually recommendations and referrals usually come from Facebook. The community pages, we're on all of the local ones, and on the Colchester community page, I reckon probably 2 or 3 times a week, someone will say, can anyone recommend a mortgage broker? And we then get tagged. It's lovely to see. You get all these notifications and you see Gemstone. It's really nice. But then I make sure I like and comment every single comment that's made, just to then show that I'm on the ball. I can, we can see that we're being recommended and that we're thanking people because it encourages them to keep on doing it. But Facebook is great for the mortgage side, and obviously the protection for us comes off the back of doing mortgages. LinkedIn is great, but not so much probably for getting new clients. It's more about raising awareness of us as a firm and about what we can do, and we'll use it more as well because Holly's now doing business protection, so we'll use it for that purpose to reach owners and directors of businesses. So I think that's probably more that market.
Every time we speak, Gemma, you've got something else that you're working on or doing. You were just talking about, obviously, your expansion last time we spoke. Then it was social media strategy. Now it's business protection. So what's been the decisions along some of those journeys?
Well, I think for the business protection, it makes sense. I mean, we've started doing commercial mortgages as well now. So we've launched a commercial arm and we're speaking to more and more business owners. So it just makes sense to be able to do that. Plus, it's the right thing for a client. Like the amount on our client base that are self-employed, beforehand we've never had those permissions to be able to talk to the client, let alone probably actually the knowledge of saying, actually, you could put this through the business instead. So now that we have that knowledge and we have those permissions, it makes sense for the client. It's the best thing for the clients.
No, business protection is definitely, and it's kind of what we found on our books is a stickier business.
Yeah.
People tend to cancel it less. They tend to, but I think as more time is spent talking about it and doing you have to do a bit more of that fact finding to the business. It just means that the advice is in really, really strong by the time it's given.
Yeah, and that's, what we want to do is get into more businesses locally, which is why building a local brand is so important for us, because then hopefully they'll recognise us and trust us straight away in making those, because they are bigger transactions, and they'll hopefully trust us more because of that. So
in terms of the social media, you said that the liking and thanking people, which is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Obviously they'll find that excellent that you're doing it. When someone tags someone, do you wait for that person to then come to you, or do you go to that person that's looking for a mortgage broker directly?
Yeah, no, I would wait for them.
Okay.
We're not. I don't like to be so aggressive as to be like, oh, we've been tagged now. Come and come to us and direct message them. I do comment and say we're happy to help.
Yeah.
Please read our reviews. And this is our number and this is my email address if you want to get in touch. So it's not pushy at all, because you see other brokers commenting, and there's nothing wrong with doing it. But saying like, I'm a whole of market broker, or I've got this, I've got that. Come and see me. But we'd rather wait for the recommendation, let the reviews do their thing and speak for themselves, and then hopefully that person then will choose us, because we're not the only company that's recommended on there, so we're just one of the most recommended on there.
And they'll be warmer when they come to you by then anyway, won't they?
Exactly. Yeah. So
excellent.
And where did you start then? So obviously you had your time working in the estate agents what was it that made you think, I really want to do this for myself now? And what was the first kind of step to that?
I was working really long hours, and I didn't mind doing it. I really enjoyed my job. Just got to the point where I thought that people were coming to do their mortgage with me and not because of the brand that I was working underneath. And I was personally getting recommendations for people then that were buying properties through other estate agents that had nothing to do with the agent that I was working underneath. And I just thought to myself, I could do this for myself. And I was very lucky that I had friends that owned an estate agent, and they were looking to have an in-house broker. And at that time they said, why don't you set up on your own? We can help support you. And they were very supportive. They sent me leads as well. But with my back book of my previous mortgages as well, I was able to really hit the ground running. We don't work with them anymore because they've gone on and launched their own successful financial firm, which is what they wanted to do. But yeah, I thought without them, I would have been probably able to have done it to the extent that I did and managed to kind of move as quickly as I did.
Yeah, because it's been rapid growth really over the last few years, especially given your circumstances. You've just spoken about with, your partner not being well, COVID. It doesn't seem to have stopped you growing at all.
I feel like COVID, it was a really tough time, but actually the mortgage market and the housing market was mental. So if there was any time to take the opportunity to grow, I think that was it. Very lucky that I didn't have a family at home, that was, a lot of my friends who are brokers were at home trying to work, but having to then parent and everything as well. They might not have maybe had the time and focus to be able to do what I did. But literally it's all that I had to do. So it was an easy focus to be able to kind of push and grow it.
Of course, as you've grown, you've obviously recruited, as you've said, along the way. And how do you ensure you've got like-minded individuals that you've taken on? 2 people you'd taken on via Zoom. I know you can get to know people on Zoom and all of that, but how do you ensure they're the right culture, the right fit for you?
It's been kind of like hit and miss with some of our recruitment. Some have been and gone, some, but the ones that we've got at the moment, like Emma, for instance, she's been with me since like day one. She was that first admin that I recruited, and then she learned everything from sitting in an office smaller than this with clients to literally sitting listening to every single appointment I did. She'd done a CMAPper in her own time, so then by the time she was qualified she could do an appointment straight away because she'd listened to me do hundreds of them, and she's now she's like my number 2 as such. And then Holly I worked with previously at the estate agent, so I knew her, not like very well, but I knew her and I knew what kind of person she was and what value she had. So she came to me without any experience, but I knew that she'd be the right fit from a fitting in kind of and ethics and having the same kind of like work ethic as us. And then then it's just, I've never used a recruitment agent or anything. I think because we do quite a lot for our team, I'd like to put that out on LinkedIn because I think it's good for recruitment. You're
really good. It was that spa day you did a few weeks back. You've got all these bits on there. It's amazing, you know.
We do Gemstone Wellness once a month.
Right.
Yeah, so it's one day a week. One day a week? No, don't. One day a month where we go out of the office during work hours, even if it's just maybe for a few hours, or it could be for an afternoon or for a morning, and we do something that's not work related ideally. But some of it is like maybe like a life coaching session to how to deal with like how to be more resilient. Like we've done some coaching with a friend of mine that is a life coach, and so she does like management training, resilience, like dealing with stress, that sort of thing. So kind of work related, but not mortgage training, if that makes sense. We've done the spa days. We've done wine tasting, yoga, like lots of different days. But the idea was to something that's like team building, like stress relieving, and nothing to do with mortgages or protection, basically. But by talking about that, I've then had people want to work for me. So when I have then gone to recruit, I've not had to use recruitment like advisors or recruitment consultants because people have already said like, when you're recruiting, can you speak to me please? So I
see. And of course, obviously the culture you've got, the customer is front and center, 100%. Obviously in our industry it just has to be, doesn't it, for both from a regulatory perspective but also for customers coming back because they can choose to go elsewhere, can't they? So in terms of that and ensuring that, how does the training work? Is it just observing you in appointments, or what other things happen
to make
sure? Yeah, to ensure that they're putting the customer at the centre of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think because we're all in the office, like they're allowed to work from home one day a week if they want to, but they very rarely do. We see probably 95% of our appointments face to face in the office. We find that we give clients the option. Do you want to come in? Do you want to do it by Zoom, or do you want to do it by telephone? So not 95%, I think
that's brilliant nowadays, isn't it? Because you just assume nowadays you'd think, a lot of it would be on Zoom and Teams, but that's fantastic.
No, they want to come in, and we've got like a kids corner with like a ball pit, doll's house, colouring that go up on the wall for the kids. So we try and make it like a nice experience for people to come in, and also then you can build rapport better and you create better relationships with your clients. But from a training perspective, it means that the team see and hear everything that goes on. So every morning we have a meeting where we discuss previous day's cases and what we've got going ahead. So if we have a case that we've not been able to place, or I don't know, if someone's, like had an issue because they've said, I tried to place this and the BMI was through the roof, like where can I go? We can all talk about that case, and it just helps us do our research as a team. So as one advisor's experiencing something, all of the advisors are experiencing it, even if they're not doing it themselves, if that makes sense. So that really helps. So it's basically training every single day, just talking about what we're seeing and what we've got going ahead. And then as they are training, they will sit in on appointments with my two top, which was like Emma and Holly. And when I was advising, they would have sat in with me. And then we will watch them.
Kind of two-way feedback, isn't it?
I hate it, but
Yeah, and it's got to be done though, and I think that's the best way to learn sometimes, isn't it? It's because you can then steal a little bit. Obviously, everyone's got their own brand and personality and their own way that they'll tee up, especially the protection conversation. I think that has to be really authentic, doesn't it? And to your brand. You can definitely steal little snippets of each person.
100%. Sometimes when I'm hearing Emma in an appointment, I'm like, she stole my line. I think we all pick up bits from each other, definitely. Yeah.
There's nothing worse than when I was like managing people, managing advisors, I'd be like, they stole them a line and they've delivered better than what I did.
I'm happy for them to be better than me. Exactly. That's the whole point of it all. Yeah, they should all be better than me.
That kind of light bulb moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in terms of the protection then, do you have so you're saying that's kind of part of each of your advisors does the mortgage and protection.
Yeah.
Where does that conversation start then?
Right at the beginning. So when we see a client, we normally see a client quite early in their process of buying a house, because we don't work directly with estate agents. We're not getting them at offer stage, this client's made an offer, can you do their mortgage? The client is normally coming to us to speak to us about what is their affordability, what's the process. And we get quite heavily involved with helping them offer on properties with estate agents. We'll negotiate on their behalf.
You negotiate on their behalf?
Yeah. Well, two reasons for that. First one is because sometimes the client finds that quite daunting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Second reason, estate agents love to conditional sell. So if we are involved with that conversation right from the beginning, it kind of just helps iron out any issues that might arise of them saying, you have to speak to our mortgage broker and you have to use us to get this property. There's two reasons that we do it, really. But from that very first initial conversation where we're even going just through the IDD, protection we're going to be discussing protection with you. And then it's just drip fed throughout the whole of the fact-finding process when we're talking about budget, when we're talking about their income, when we're talking about them having children. All of it is leading on to that protection conversation. Once they found a house and then we're doing their mortgage, we submit their mortgage application and then we book in the protection conversation, and we insist on doing that face-to-face or by Zoom. We won't do protection over the phone because we feel that it has to be done face-to-face.
And they know it's happening, don't they? Because you're signposting the whole way through.
Absolutely.
You're drip feeding it through. So when they say, right, and then we're going to do the protection conversation at the right time, they know.
Yeah, well, we've got a folder they go out with all their bits in it.
Right.
And we've got a Gemstone branded house buying process, which starts from then viewing a property to getting the keys. And in that, there's a part that says mortgage submission, and then protection conversation. So that's in there, and we signpost that to them to say, this is your journey you're going to be following. This is when we're going to be doing this. Mm-hmm. So they're very aware that they're going to be having that conversation.
And it's almost like not really giving them an option. I think some of one of the key fundamental issues, sometimes people say, would you like to? Or do you want to then talk about this? And it's like, of course,
they don't want to.
So, but actually, by saying to them, this is our journey.
Absolutely.
Then you're bringing them on that.
And I think consumer duties really helped have that conversation, because if anyone then is if they're slightly against having that initial talk, we say to them, we have to do this as part of our role. We have to be seen to be giving you a full advice process. If you don't want anything after hearing us out, then, you can sign this disclaimer to say that we've had this conversation with you. And don't get me wrong, not 100% of people will sit down and have the conversation with us. And if they don't, they sign a disclaimer.
But you explain the benefits of it, I presume, anyway, of doing it, because you're dripping it through the whole time. And the customer can then choose whether they want to or they don't.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about, the consumer duty itself. Is it's offering them that choice. Most customers choose to do it, but obviously the ones that don't, well, fine. You've given them that information, so therefore you've done your job.
Yeah, and it can't be a hard sell anymore. We used to be taught how to disturb our clients. Disturbance was a thing when I was first taught, and we can't do that anymore. So it's you have to signpost it, and you have to connect it to all of the fact finding bits as you're doing it, to create that emotive sell and for them to see the need for it.
Well, people just have to know the need, don't they?
Exactly.
The impact of things. They need to know how it can affect their situation, how it can affect their life plan, their future, all that type of thing. And if you're not doing that, they can't make that choice. It's a bit like you say, you ask someone, do you want to do this? If they don't know what it is, they're automatically going to say no, aren't they? So you explain what it is, and then they can make an informed choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's funny, that disturbance techniques. I remember years ago I had a really, really old school kind of sales manager, and they said, if you've not made someone cry at some point in your career as a mortgage advisor, you've not done it right in the protection conversation. And you just think, oh no.
Imagine saying that now.
So how do you tend to, what kind of questions do you ask, and how do you approach it then or teach your team to do it in a non-disturbing way? What do you think is important there?
So I usually like to put the client in the driving seat and to say to them, like, you've just made the biggest purchase of your life, basically, and there's lots of things that could happen that could impact your ability to pay this mortgage. What do you think could happen that would impact you and would mean that you couldn't pay it? And they straight away go to death. And you go, yeah, you could die. That's the very worst case scenario. But luckily, there is something in place that if that worst thing was to happen, that we can ensure that your family is going to be okay and that mortgage will be repaid for you. It's called life insurance, and we can look at that for you. But there's lots of things that could happen in the lead up to you dying that could also impact you. And then they start thinking about, I could be sick and I could be, and then we break that up into short-term illness and critical illness and we take it from there.
So it's kind of breaking it up into little chunks then, whilst taking that client on the journey, but letting them start with what came to mind for them first.
And we ask them, what if that was to happen to you? What would you want to happen? Like, would you want to have to sell the house and move your family? Or would you want something in place that could protect that for you whilst you're going through the worst time of your life, So it's just getting them to see it and say it, basically.
Yeah, and I hope I'm asking, but with your partner's journey, has that changed the way you position it at all, or how's that impacted?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it to our clients, and my team use our story as well. I mean, it's quite a frustrating story, to be honest with you, because we'd only been together for 18 months when he got his diagnosis. So we both had our own houses. We didn't live together properly. The only reason why we were was because of lockdown, because it was like, if we don't get in a bubble, we're not going to be able to see each other. So, and when we first got together, I tried to sell him, obviously, everything. And I was like, you've got to have this. It's like, oh no, maybe when we buy a house together. So he had no cover at all. So then when he got his diagnosis, I mean, we were fine financially because of furlough, thankfully. He was able to still earn whilst he was off having treatment because of COVID. So it was the best time for him to get cancer. It sounds awful, isn't it? But it was the best time for us for that to happen. But now we are still together, and we've bought a house together. We've got a big mortgage now together. He now can't get any cover. So if anything now does happen to him, I'm not protected, our future family's not protected. So that's the conversation that I have with clients, especially as well, is don't think about just the now, think about what you're planning for the future. Like, we were planning to be together forever, and we were planning to have a family, but that protection conversation can't happen now until he's been clear for so long. And then even then he probably wouldn't get cover for certain things. So yeah, it's about preparing for your future and just thinking it further ahead rather than just what is right in front of you right now. Even though compliance doesn't like giving life insurance to a single person, it's really important, I feel, to still have that conversation.
Well, definitely, because we've still got a lifestyle and still got commitments. I always remember the mindset is like, the minute you earn an income, you're insurable. Like, you have got something that really needs to be looked at, don't you? And it's so important. And I guess in terms of that, your partner's view on it, I take it, what were his? Did he finally be like, oh, I now know why? Or
well, he's thinking, oh god, my mortgage could be paid off now. Do you know? Like, that's literally. And I was like, I hate to say I told you so, but yeah, I mean, we were lucky for the timing. If we hadn't been in COVID, then it would have been a real struggle. We would have had 2 mortgages to pay with just my income. That would have been really, really tough. Yeah. But we were very lucky that we had furlough. Right?
It's a powerful story to use, isn't it now? And when you're using it with clients and talking about what happened, are you finding that many clients you come across know people where a similar thing has happened and therefore they can properly get it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got even more stories, but I feel like telling my own to a client, that hits hard like for them. But I mean, we've got loads of examples from our own friends and family, from clients. Like we've recently lost a client. Luckily we did have cover arranged for them. But yeah, he was like 38 years old, bowel cancer, 2 young children under the age of 6. Like, so just
thank goodness it was covered.
No, but that's exactly, and it's and literally as soon as you get the text or the call, I was like, went back on the computer. I was like, what did I get them? What did I arrange them? And as obviously as horrible as it is, I felt like a massive relief that we did the right thing. They had critical illness cover and life insurance, both separate as well. So they had a payout when he was diagnosed, and then the life insurance when he sadly passed. But that, you know, those stories, those real life stories, they are so important to tell. So, and I feel that that's not disturbance. That's, you know, that is actually real, genuine, real life stuff. And that's
genuine care.
Yeah.
Because you've just said, you know, there's nothing worse. I mean, I've been in that position as well. I've taken a call and I've had an email of a client telling me when I was an advisor that, you know, something's happened to me. Yeah. What do we do? And one of them had cover. One of them unfortunately had cover, but he decided to take his own life, and it was within the short time frame. So that was the worst phone call I've ever had to make in my life, was having to phone his wife back and say, I'm really sorry, but there's no cover. Yeah. Then I had to help with the death, but then I was like, does he have death in service? What do we do next? And to still support it, because I was like, I cannot leave this. And I think that's a difference between disturbance and care. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about caring for your clients, isn't it? And like you say, once you're talking to them that early, because you're not dependent, linked in with an estate agent and stuff, you're building those solid relationships really, really early, getting to know them. And
that's why we like the mortgage broker to do the protection conversation as well, because they do build a relationship with them, and that client is going to trust them. And so when they're saying, this is then what we need to do, this is what you what you need, they're not thinking it's just a sale, you know, not just an add-on. And they're not being passed off to someone that knows nothing about them, that doesn't know the name of their children, and doesn't know, like, you know, what they spend their money on, because they've not seen their bank statements yet. So that journey for the client is a lot nicer to stick it just with one person. Or, you know, now that I've said to you that I'm going to be like picking up any protection that we've even missed because we've been really busy at the moment, at least it's going, oh, well, my director's going to be talking to you about the protection, rather than it going to outside of the business, you know. So
I guess that probably makes it feel quite elevated. Like, and actually, if the director of the company is so passionate that they're actually going to sit with you and discuss this, that really elevates that conversation.
This is important.
And then when they come to the office, there's other people in the office, so they get to know them as well, I expect, because
the whole team?
The whole team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They know everyone. We have WhatsApp groups with everyone in it. So then we've got like the admin, the broker, we've got a sales progressor as well, and then the client. So we have like WhatsApp groups. So they know everyone anyway.
That's a brilliant concept to keep the client up to date, and so they don't have to ring and not know who's going to answer. They can just WhatsApp.
And then also the whole team are up to date and they know what's going on as well. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's just a new take, isn't it, on, because the way you're operating, that face-to-face element is traditional, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a new way of doing it. So you're using technology now in order to bolster that.
Yeah.
And take it a step further. I love that.
Everyone loves a WhatsApp group, don't they?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm just trying to think how busy your phone must be with all these different groups.
How'd you keep up?
Oh, well, I'm not in all the groups. The brokers, bless them though, their phones just like.
Yeah, but that is what a lovely, like, I guess they're not having to then wait on anybody and wait for things.
And also, if the client's at work, if we need something from a client, to call them, and like if they can't answer the phone, or if, you know, if you email them, they're not going to be checking their emails whilst they're at work. Everyone has their phone on them and they will check their WhatsApp. So yeah, it's a good way of getting information quickly.
Yeah, because it pings up, doesn't it? You just look at it automatically, don't you? There's almost like that human temptation. You can't leave a WhatsApp, whereas an email is different, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my watch has been going throughout this, and I'm like, oh my God, who's messaged me? But it is though, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you need to know.
Yeah, you do. Definitely. And in terms of next steps, where do you think the kind of market opportunities are next for you? Obviously, you've got business protection that you're thinking about. Is there anything else on the horizon?
Well, we were doing the will side with another company, but their software isn't available anymore. So the will side, I think, is a really good way of actually getting more protection, because then you get the access to like the guardians and the trustees, and so being able to have a conversation with them as well about what they may have in place. It's just an extra way of growing that side. But I need to look into that bit a little bit more again.
As I said, you don't stop, do you? It's always something. But we've definitely seen advisors do that, is either using wills or trusts to kind of grow that protection market, because you've got the client's most trusted person. You've got their details, and why would you not then want to explain to them what's happening, why, and really bring them on that journey, isn't it?
But then especially if they've got children, if you've then arranged for someone to be guardians of your children, but then you haven't got any form of family income benefit, you can say, you're expecting them to financially care for your children if you were to die. And they're like, oh no, and then it's just another way of
People just don't think about it, do they? You just educating them so they can make that decision if they want to do something about it.
Definitely. Well, no, Gemma, you've shared so much with us about your journey and your passion and things. Oh no, it's been absolutely brilliant. Is there anything, if you were to summarise your journey or your passions in the industry, what would be the kind of one bit of advice you'd want to give other advisors?
Especially for advisors that are maybe going on the journey alone and maybe going self-employed, just as you get busy, just don't wait to get help in, so like an admin or another broker, because when I did get busy, when it was just me, protection was the first thing that fell. I was too busy with mortgages, and then that was my excuse that I was too busy to do it, and then as soon as I got an admin in, I was able to do my job properly. But there was a time when I wasn't doing my job properly. And it was the cost of getting that admin in that stopped me from doing it. But actually, by getting them in, I made more money because I was able then to do the thing that made me money and do the right by my clients. So I think from going from it onto, if you were going self-employed and going at it alone, I would say that making sure you have a support, and admin support, is like really important.
Do you know what? Thank you so much for your honesty, because I think it's so easy for advisors and anyone who's supposed to look into a really successful business like yours and think, of course they do it all. Of course they do it properly. But actually, but that's what I mean, by sharing that actually everybody will have peaks and troughs where they struggle, they're busy, and it's about getting around that and just admitting to yourself, what have I dropped here? How do I get it back on track? And no, thank you so much.
And the fact you need others to help you, don't you, in order to make sure as many customers are protected as possible.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Gemma. That's been brilliant.
Thank you for having me.